Hi everybody, I'm Charlie, and this is On Air, my Beatles collection. A while back I did a series on unofficial box sets, many of them under the banner of Real Alternate blank, Real Alternate Rubber Soul, Real Alternate White Album, Real Alternate Sgt. Pepper, etc. And I have a whole bunch of the real alternates. I don't think I did this one because it's not a real alternate. It's a different producer, if you will. But it's equally interesting, and it's also a limited edition, very hard to find box set. And this one is called The Beatles in Italy. And you'll see it's on the graphophone fictitious label. You'll also see that it is a limited edition of 400. This is number 279. You'll also see that it's 4 LPs, 2 CDs, and 1 DVD. On the back, you'll see the detail, but it's a little tough for you to catch all that, so I'm gonna just give you a chance to pause it so you can look at it, but then I'm going to talk about it. So you're probably all familiar with the album, the official album called The Beatles in Italy, which has been counterfeited, by the way. But The Beatles in Italy was put out to commemorate the fact that the Beatles were in Italy. It was thought to be a live album. In fact, in an interview one time, John Lennon even said that he thought there was a live album called The Beatles in Italy. What it really was just a studio album with a mixture of songs to commemorate the fact that the Beatles were in Italy. This box set combines those two concepts. It actually has mono and stereo versions of the original Beatles in Italy album. It has the same sequence of songs with alternate tracks, alternate mixes, I should say. And then it actually has the Beatles live in Italy. So, as opposed to the Beatles in Italy album, which didn't. So anyway, that's that. So let me show you what it looks like inside. The lid does come off completely on this one. Some of the box sets I've shown you are kind of in a have a hinge on them, and the lids don't actually come off. For some reason, the albums, the vinyl, happens to be on top at the moment, so I need to go through it, find out what happened to my CDs. Got placed in the box in reverse order. The first thing that's in the box looks just like the box cover, front and back, but it's a card. It's not the actual box cover. And then here is a card that has the 2 CDs and the DVD. Okay. I'm going to show you the albums, and then I'll walk you through the tracks after I show you the actual vinyl. So here's one, a nice sort of cream lime green vinyl. This is actually the last disc in the set, side 7 and 8. Here's the next one. This one is similar, but a little more marbled and a little bit darker green. This is side 5 and 6. There's 6. Try to show you a little more of the marbling. You can see that there, and a couple of dark green spots throughout there. Very nice effect. A lot of these box sets that I've shown in the past have all different colors. This one, so far, is all green, but different greens. This one again is a different tint, and there's a little marbling in this as well. There's the other side. As you can see, it's somewhat translucent, a little bit. You can, I don't know if you can see that I'm there. And then the last one in the set, which is actually the second, is another kind of a green. This has a lot more blue in it. Hopefully you can see all the blue in there. Yeah, that's good. So these are really very nice to look at. And they're good sounding. And I'm going to walk you through the tracks. Side one is the original mono mix of the Beatles in Italy. And it's Long Tall Sally, She's a Woman, Matchbox, From Me to You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Ticket to Ride. All studio tracks, not live. Side two of the Beatles in Italy in mono is This Boy, Slow Down, I Call Your Name, Thank You Girl, Yes It Is, and I Feel Fine. Side three is the Beatles in Italy alternate album. So remember I said the other boxes are called the real alternate. In this case, it would be the real alternate Beatles in Italy, except this is not the same producer, so it doesn't carry that banner across the top like those others do. But they have the same features. They have the original tracks, and then usually in mono, and then they have the original tracks in stereo, and then they have the alternate tracks. So that's what we got here. So the side three and side four are the Beatles in Italy, the alternate album. And so you get a stereo mix of Long Tall Sally. Then you get take 7 of She's a Woman with a false start. You get a stereo mix of Matchbox. You get take 5 of From Me to You. You get a stereo mix of I Want to Hold Your Hand, and an alternate stereo mix of Ticket to Ride. That's side 3. Side 4 is take 13 of This Boy, a stereo mix of Slow Down, a stereo mix of I Call Your Name, take 14 of Thank You Girl, take 14 of Yes It Is, and a stereo version of I Feel Fine with an intro. Side 5 is the original Beatles in Italy in stereo. So it's the same songs I mentioned earlier in mono, and now it's in stereo. Long Tall Sally, She's a Woman, Matchbox, From Me to You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, Ticket to Ride. Side 6 is, just like the others, it's the stereo version of This Boy, Slow Down, I Call Your Name, Thank You Girl, Yes It Is, and I Feel Fine. And they have a note on here that sides 5 and 6 are a fantastic mix, combining elements of both the 2009 mono and stereo versions. So they're mono to stereo. Side 7 is the Beatles live at the June Teatre Adriano, Rome, Italy, afternoon show. And so side 7 is a live version of Twist and Shout, She's a Woman, I'm a Loser, spelled wrong, Can't Buy Me Love, Baby's in Black, I Want to Be Your Man, A Hard Day's Night, and Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby. Side 8 is Beatles at the June Teatre Adriano, Rome, Italy, afternoon and evening show. Rock and Roll Music, I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride, Long Tall Sally, that's from the evening show. Twist and Shout, She's a Woman, I'm a Loser, spelled wrong again, that's from the afternoon show. Twist and Shout, I'm a Loser again, and that's the soundboard version from the afternoon show. And then there's a track that's just an interview. So that is what's on there. The DVD is, my Italian is not going to be good on this, I Favolosi Beatles. Now I have to confess I haven't watched the DVD, so I'm not exactly sure what that is. I don't know if it's just the Fabulous Beatles and it's a narrative documentary type thing, or if they actually show the Beatles on stage. I'm sorry I can't tell you that because I don't know. But, and again, that's the box set, or that's the same as the box set cover. This doesn't open. Oh, yes, it does. Sorry, I forgot. There we go. And I'm sure this will tell us more about the DVD. So I'm glad I checked that. Some of these haven't been out of my storage shelf in quite a while. I'm just digging up some stuff that I thought you all might be interested in as an audience. So let's see what we can find out here. The first side is pretty much just the same track list that I read to you. So it's pretty much the same thing with some pictures thrown in. Let's see what's on the second side. Oh yeah, here we go. So I don't know if it's I or E, it's the letter I Fabulosi Beatles. I need my friend Frank DeFalco to translate for me. So there's an introduction, then there's a report and interviews on 3/25/65. Then there's a report and interview with the boys, it says, and London Palladium clips, and that's from 11/23/63. Then there's interviews with Ringo, it says Gary Marsden. I think that's probably Jerry Marsden, and Alan Williams, the man who gave the Beatles away. Pete Best and Ringo interviews, Paul interview, and Bill Wyman interviews. 6/12/65 just has the title Beatles in Italy. December 66 has Cavern Report. February 13th, 67, Beatles Report and Sgt. Pepper. March 15th, 68, Maharishi Visit, Donovan Interview, Apple and Mary Hopkins Interview, and the one January 31st, 69 appearance. And then March 12th, 69, Paul and Linda get married. And then there's a Mike McCartney interview. And then March 21st, 69, so just 9 days later, John and Yoko get married. And then just 19 days later, no, sorry, it's a year and 19 days later, the Beatles officially break up, April 10th, 1970. So all of that is part of what's on the DVD. So I'm sorry I didn't know that off the top of my head. I didn't recall it. I haven't actually seen it in a long time. And I'll just read you a little bit about what it says about the Beatles in Italy. It says the title to Beatles in Italy sounds like it's a live album. And apparently even John was duped because in a 1970 Rolling Stone interview, he claimed, there's a live album in Italy, apparently, that somebody recorded there. In reality, the album had nothing to do with Italy. It was created to capitalize on their concert there in '65 and was made up entirely of songs from singles and EPs. Without an officially issued live album released during the Beatles' career, John's comment caused a frenzy of attention from fans who at that point were not widely aware of foreign affiliates' tendency to compile albums themselves outside of the Beatles' supervision. So, as I mentioned early in the video here, I was aware that John had said that. I didn't specifically cite the Rolling Stone interview, but I knew that he had said that, and I knew that he was wrong about that. A lot of people were fooled by the title. It became popular as a collector's item, even though it wasn't really widely distributed. And it had two different covers over time, and I believe it was also counterfeited, where you could buy an album called The Beatles in Italy, and it had those songs, but it wasn't the original. It wasn't the actual one. It was a copy of it. And then there's a mention about the champagne glass cover. A lot of times this pops up on New Year's Eve. People pull this picture off the internet and they use it to talk about New Year's Eve. Sometimes, because John and Paul have their fingers in their ears, sometimes people use the fingers in the ears when there's something in the picture that doesn't sound good. So it's not, they used the picture even though that wasn't the original intent. The champagne glass cover in Israel. The album was issued with the back cover photo of the Beatles holding champagne glasses on the front. This cover became highly sought after and was widely counterfeited. Yes, it was. And then there's a note about I Feel Fine, the whispering version. Later stereo copies of the album containing the whispering version of I Feel Fine that had previously been released on British copies of 1962 to 1966, aka the Red Album, in which a tape being started and a voice muttering something can be heard before the song starts. And then it says the release history is Parlophone 31506, released July 13th, 1965. And then it says Parlophone 31506, released 1965. And then it says Odeon, Japan. And then it says Parlophone 062-04632 from the Netherlands. That's the release history of the whispering version, in addition to the British copies of the Red Album. So then there's also a review, and I'm going to read you the review too, because that's interesting. This is a contemporaneous review from June 27th, 1965. It says the Beatles in Italy, 1965 set, collected the most comprehensive and definitive record of the Beatles' only trip to Italy. This tour occurred right before their second U.S. tour, beginning on August 15th in New York, and saw the band play several dates in the Mediterranean countries, including 3 stops in Italy. All 4 tapes on this release feature their activities in Rome on June 27th. The first and longest part of the release is the audience recording from the evening show at the Adrian Theater. It begins with a fade-in middle of Twist and Shout and ends soon after Long Tall Sally starts. There's a small cut in Ticket to Ride, and the tape comes to a bit more distorted, probably because it was the end of the cassette. In general, the sound quality is what can be expected from Beatles audience recordings. It is understandable and even enjoyable once your ears adjust to the screaming fans and distortion. Paul introduces some of the numbers in very broken Italian, and the audience appreciates the effort. The portion from the afternoon show fades into Twist and Shout and cuts out into I'm a Loser. Again, the sound is fair at best. The next couple of tracks are from a journalist's tape plugged right into the venue's PA, and it sounds excellent. This fragment captures the spoken intro and the beginning of Twist and Shout, both of which are missing from the audience tape. Unfortunately, it cuts out right after the beginning of I'm a Loser. Too bad the journalist didn't capture the entire set. Finally, the title ends with a short, under 2-minute fragment from the press conference at the Hotel Parco dei Principi in Rome before the afternoon concert. John admits the Beatle haircut is a gimmick that helps, but their music is, of course, for their popularity. The evening show audience recording and afternoon show fragment sound better than previous releases, like in Concert Addendum 2 on Secret Tracks, another bootleg. Given the condition of the source material, it isn't a dramatic upgrade, but it is noticeable and worth having. So that's what they're telling you about the live portion of the Beatles in Italy that's found in this box. So we got 4 discs of original mono, original stereo, and then alternate mono, alternate stereo, and or 2 CDs, 4 LPs, 2 CDs. And we have the 1 DVD of the stuff that we talked about for the I Favolosi Beatles DVD. And of course the sound of that we just read about for the live part of it. So it's snippets of songs, and it's some complete songs going into the early part of the next song, and then it stops for whatever reason the person recording it did that. So it's not high quality stuff necessarily. That particular concert has shown up in recent years on some bootlegs where it's recorded complete. but this does not attempt to do that. It's just a really nice box set. I have, as I said, a lot of them under the banner of the Real Alternate, and I love the Real Alternates. They all have multiple color vinyl. They all have CDs, you know, the same music on CD. Only a few of them have a DVD. I wish they had a Blu-ray, but the technology didn't allow for it then. And most of the Real Alternates, actually all of the Real Alternates, have a lenticular cover. This one is not. This is just a flat picture of the Beatles. There's no. The other ones is, you know, it's like a piece of plastic that sticks to the box, and theoretically, you know, you're supposed to be able to do that. And if you've seen the John Lennon Power to the People box, you know, you do this and it goes from John to Yoko to John to Yoko on the lenticular cover. This doesn't have that, but the Real Alternate boxes do have that. But anyway, this is what it looks like from the side. Beatles in Italy. Beatles in Italy. I mentioned earlier. Graphophone. Don't see that too many places in there. This is actually a sticker on here, and it's, as I said, it's numbered. You won't have much luck trying to find this. Every once in a while, you know, a collector that has one will part with it. They're usually, you know, I've seen a bunch of the Real Alternates recently on eBay. I've seen the Red album, and the Blue album, and Rubber Soul album, all of which I have. And the seller was asking about $350 each for those boxes. I didn't pay that much for them, but I paid a lot for them. I probably paid $200 for them. I don't recall what I paid for the Beatles in Italy, but it's in the same category. You know, it depends on how many color vinyl LPs and how many CDs, and if there's a DVD. You know, some of them have 5 LPs, 3 CDs. You know, it really depends on how much background material they were able to find. I mean, you know, all the boxes that we're still waiting for in the Beatles archive collection, or super deluxe editions, whatever you want to call it, you know, the Giles Martin remixes. I have those. I have those on these Real Alternate albums. They're not Giles Martin remixed, but they have lots of outtakes. They're in the same style as this box. You get the original mono, you get the original stereo, and then you get the original track list, but with alternate versions, you know, different takes. And then sometimes there's an additional bonus disc where there's a bunch of stuff that was recorded at the time, but it either wasn't released or it wasn't released on that particular album, but it was recorded at the same time. So, I mean, I have With the Beatles, I have Magical Mystery Tour, I have Rubber Soul, I have Revolver, I have Sgt. Pepper, I have the White Album, I have the Red and Blue albums. I'm looking across the room to try to remember which ones I have. But anyway, I wanted to show you the Beatles in Italy today. So that's it for today. Hopefully, if you like this video, you'll hit that thumbs up. If you're not yet a subscriber, please subscribe and come back and see us for some other videos. Well over 100 videos on the channel now. And certainly, if you have any comments or questions, or if you know something I don't know about this show or about this album or about any of the Real Alternate boxes or about the Graphophone label or the Sapcore label or the Sapple label, those are all part of the stuff that I'm talking about today. I'll also remind you that I have a Facebook page called My Beatles Collection. This is on air, My Beatles Collection, the YouTube channel, but my Facebook page is My Beatles Collection. We got well over 5,000 members there. It is a private group, so you have to answer a few questions. I gotta ring the doorbell and I gotta let you in, so you gotta answer a few questions. But we'd love to have you over there. I usually try to post something every day or two. I also post, you know, breaking news and that type of stuff. You know, if there's a new album coming out, or we have pictures or prices and things. And many of the members are active and post stuff, or at least comment on your stuff if you post. So My Beatles Collection is your Beatles collection. It's a great place to show off your stuff or to ask questions about things. Or I do not allow any selling, but you can certainly ask somebody what something is worth or what they think it's worth. You know, if you find a Butcher album in Grandpa's attic, and you want to, you know, show it off and get a price from the group, you'll get one. If you have an autograph that you're not sure if it's real, you'll get all kinds of opinions about that. Usually they trash every autograph, whether it's real or not. 90% of the responders, the comments seem to always say, no, that's not right. That's not how Paul formed his peas or whatever. So, but you know, it's fun. There's lots of Beatles Facebook pages, lots of groups. You know, some of them have 100,000 members. Some of them have 50. I've got a little over 5,000. Well, actually, well over 5,000. And we add about 100 a week, every week from all over the world. So if you want to join the party there, please come on, stop over there too. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Take care.